Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Welcome to another lecture. In this class, we shall continue with the Canterville Ghost written by Oscar Wilde. Now, so far we've discussed about the detailed summary of the novel The Canterville Ghost. We learned about how Sir Simon's ghost had been living in the Canterville Chase for 300 years and finally got to rest in peace because of Virginia. In this lecture, we shall first begin with the themes of the Canterville Ghost. Now, the first theme of the Canterville Ghost was the American and the British culture. As we've seen at the beginning only, the Otis family belonged to America. They were upstart Americans, and the Canterville Chase was situated in England. So basically, the British characters like Lord Canterville, Mrs. Umney, the Canterville Ghost, they were very interested in maintaining a status for their country, for their traditions, and they believed in doing the things according to their ceremonies and their rituals. They respected their past and they valued the rank and the status of the people. On the other hand, the Otis family that belonged to America, they were very doubtful kind of people. They were down to earth. For them, the status did not matter. That is why, if you remember, Mr. Otis was not happy when his daughter was marrying a duke. So they were very down to earth people and they believed in what they could see in front of them, and they always thought of finding a practical solution to the problem. The next theme that was very much evident in this story was theatricality and performance. Theatre. The ghost, obviously, if you remember, there was a mention of the word by the ghost, which was costumes. So the ghost believed in taking different forms, different characters, so as to scare the people who lived in the Canterville Chase. He would sometimes take the costume of an armor, would sometimes take away, adorn the costume of a headless man, and he wanted his audience to be scared, and when they didn't, he got very emotional and felt very disrespectful. So this basically tells us that the ghost was very hurt when the Otis family did not pay any attention to the performances, to the costumes that the ghost wore to scare them. The next theme that is talked about in this story is tradition as well as heritage. Now, Ghost had been living in the Canterville Chase for over 300 years now, and therefore he represented tradition, he represented heritage. But the presence of the ghost in itself, did not make the Otis family feel scared. The ghost was a part of the legacy who'd been living in this house for 300 years. So many people were scared by the ghost, and that suggests that the ghost was actually very famous. The people actually were scared of the ghost until the Otis family came. Otis family, being a modern family, they did not believe in traditions, and they found ways to scare the ghost himself and were not in the least afraid of the presence of a ghost in their house. The next theme is that of innocence. There was just one character that portrayed innocence, and that was Virginia. She's been depicted as a very kind-hearted girl who presented innocence in the story. The ghost was attracted towards Virginia because he could see Virginia to be a gentle and a kind and a soft-hearted girl. And that was the reason why the ghost sought for Virginia's help. He wanted Virginia to cry for him and to seek forgiveness for all the sins that he had committed. And that is how the ghost could redeem himself, go to the final sleep only and only because of Virginia. The next theme that has been talked about in the story was shame. Now, as the ghost was trying more and more to scare the Otis family, he could feel the shame that his failure brought along. He could not manage to scare anyone, and every failure that he met only made him feel ashamed of his act. The reaction that he received from the Otis family, specifically Washington and the twins, that made his identity in threat. The ghost tried to take revenge, but at the end of it, we have seen how he got so disappointed that he did not even come out of his room and was intact. The last theme of the story is peace. Now we have seen that in the beginning of the plot, the ghost was very happy, scaring whosoever came to live in the Canterville chase. But later on, we saw how he confided in Virginia that he wanted peace, that he wanted to sleep forever. And that is the reason why he requested Virginia to accompany him to the Garden of Death, where he could just sleep peacefully. And his desire was met successfully, all because of Virginia. So these were the themes of the novel, The Canterville Ghost, my dear students. Let us now talk about the different characters we came across in this story. The first one was Sir Simon de Canterville, the Canterville Ghost basically. He had lived in the Canterville chase since 1584. He killed his wife. He was murdered by his brothers-in-law who starved him to death. And his body was, still entangled in the chains inside the secret chamber. Sir Simon scared the people who came to live in the Canterville chase because he considered that to be his duty. He used multiple props and costumes and performances to scare the people. He had been doing that for the past 300 years very successfully. There were a lot of people who came to live in the Canterville chase, and they got so scared that they killed themselves out of fear. And that is why Lord Canterville and his family, they did not live in the Canterville chase, and they sold the property to the Otis family. Now, the Otis family, who were modern upstart Americans, they did not believe in the concept of ghost, and they scared the ghost on the other hand. And it was because of the Otis family only that Sir Simon expressed his desire to get peace and to get the final sleep. Next, we have Mr. Otis. Mr. Otis was an American minister who bought the Canterville chase from Lord Canterville. He was the husband of Mrs. Otis, had four children, Washington, Virginia, and the two twins, the twins that he had. Now, when the ghost was trying to haunt the Canterville chase, Mr. Otis displayed a very calm, a very peaceful character, and he actually gave a lubricating oil to the ghost so that the chains would not make that noise. He proved to be a good father for, his sons often laughed at him, and they did not stop troubling the ghost. They continued to trouble the ghost, and they continued to scare the ghost. Mr. Otis believed that his family was in danger, and therefore he always carried a gun along with himself, and that is the reason why he asked the ghost to put his hands up in the air. We have seen that Mr. Otis was a very simple man, and that is why he gave his kids names like Washington and Virginia, and he always thought America to be very superior to the other places. And at the end, when his daughter was about to be married to a duke, he was not happy. Then we have Virginia. Virginia was the daughter of Mr. Otis and has been portrayed as the most sensible and the sensitive character in the entire story. She had an elder brother, Washington, and two younger twin brothers. Now, by the end of the story, Virginia married the Duke of Cheshire, who had a dream that he had been in contact with Virginia for a very long time. Virginia was just 15 years old when the story began, and she has been described as a tall, a fearless girl. She was certainly fearless because the way she dealt with Sir Simon and the way she helped Sir Simon, he go to the final abort for the final piece, that clearly shows how strong and fearless she was. Yes, she got scared of all the tapestries and all the scriptures that she could see on the wall of the hallway when she was accompanying the ghost, but that did not make her turn around. She was very sensitive, she was caring, and that is why she offered the ghost her sandwich when she got to know that the ghost was starved to death. She helped the ghost, and also we've seen that she cried when she saw the blood stain change to the green color. She had a lot of sympathy for the ghost, and she scolded Sir Simon as well for having killed his wife. So that clearly shows that she was a very righteous, fair, winsome, beautiful, sensible girl. The next character in the story were the twins. So they were popularly known as the Star and the Stripes. They were the youngest children of Mr. and Mrs. Otis, and they were the brothers of Washington and Virginia Otis. Now, we did not get to know their original names throughout the story, but we know that these two twins were actually very troublesome. Not only for their parents, but also for the ghost. They terrorized Sir Simon. They hit the ghost of Sir Simon with pillows and toy guns. And they actually thought of all the traps and all the snares so that they would scare the ghost. Sir Simon's ghost was very scared of these two twins, and he wanted to take a revenge from them at any cost. And it was only because of these two twins that Sir Simon never came out of his room later on. And they were also the first ones to have spotted the almond tree blooming in the garden at the end of the story. Washington Otis, who was the elder son of Mr. and Mrs. Otis, has again expressed that he was an American. That is why, rather than being scared of the blood stain, without fail he would clean it every day. He has been described as a good-looking young man who obviously was born into an aristocrat family, and he was very fond of his name. Lord Canterville was the previous owner of Canterville Chase. He sold the property to Mr. Otis because of the presence of Sir Simon's ghost. Lord Canterville never lived in that property. His servants also refused to stay there, and his wife, Lady Canterville, was not able to sleep in that house. Obviously, Sir Canterville did look after the property and ensure that it was looked after well. He warned Mr. Otis about the presence of a ghost in the house. He also let Virginia keep the casket of jewelry, saying that she deserved that. He arranged a grand funeral for Sir Simon. So we can say that he was a very nice man, and he represented the aristocracy. So these, my dear students, were the major characters. We have Mrs. Otis as well. Mrs. Otis was considered to be, a middle-aged woman. She was very beautiful. She was Mr. Otis's wife, had Washington, Virginia, and the two twins as her kids. She was American by birth, but she was very well fit in the England life as well. Then Mrs. Otis had a very brief role to play in the Canterville Ghost, and she had just one interaction with Mr. Simon, the ghost of Sir Simon, where she offered him the medicine, because when Sir Simon's ghost was giving his maniacal laugh, she thought there was some problem with his stomach, and that is why she gave and offered him the medicine. So these, my dear students, were the major characters of the story. Mrs. Umne, we know, was the housekeeper of the Canterville Chase. She has been with the family for a very long time. For over 50 years, she had been looking after the Canterville Chase, the entire property. She was scared of the presence of the ghost in the Canterville Chase, and that was the reason why she fainted when Washington cleaned that blood stain and there was a huge thunder sound. Then the Duke of Cheshire was Virginia's husband. He was an aristocrat and he was very fond of Virginia and he married her. Duke proposed to Virginia, and we have seen that although Virginia continued to dissuade the Duke, but he continued to court and look after and run behind Virginia. When she had disappeared with Sir Simon, the Duke was very anxious to find her, and she joined the party. He assured Mr. Otis that he does not want a hat, which was the sign of his aristocracy. He only wanted Virginia. So these were the major characters of the Canterville Ghost.